Pretty much, like I said, it's you work towards a form of no self, which means is pretty much if you know to neutralize, if you're trying to neutralize your surroundings and everything around you, pretty much you start with that with a series of the knowledge or understanding that this is ultimately a dream. And by it ultimately being a dream is also, and I know this might be a little philosophical, but it's also psychological in your head that you get the template or the blueprint of what we're talking about as far as it ultimately being a dream. By it ultimately being a dream, and you program yourself with this in the mind, it will set up a series of detachments till you get to the point where you will go to no self. Like I did on October the 16th, 2002. I went to a level of no self in the aspect of whatever Bobby Hemmitt was, I found myself outside of the particular body. First, I felt very insignificant. But then I realized and found out that in so many words, I was only my soul in the first place having these experiences. And Bobby only was this role that I had been playing. But I did that by neutralizing or devaluing my own personal life around you. One of the key parts of doing that is this. Because I know a lot of women right now are stuck, and I think that's one of are stuck, whereas their whole concept of everything around them is based on their children. And although they have not reared their children for several years, they're still stuck in this perpetual cycle of living life through family members. You see what I'm saying? So on one particular concept is, and I've been talking about this for years, that you must neutralize those people that you think is very important, because one thing that even Brother Daoud said with his insane behind, and he was right about that, was whenever the spirit world sees light realms, particles of light trying to move up, they will send people around you to hold that light down, to keep it dormant, or to keep it in place, or to stagnate it. And they do that through family members. That's the first thing that's going to come to get you off the track. So it's a series of things, but going back to your question, it's a series of detachments. And it first starts from a philosophical aspect. Then it starts with a social aspect, which a lot of people, especially a lot of people, not all, but most people past 50 should have been at a particular point where material items are not necessarily so much of a, I'm quite sure you want this and you want that, and there's I know some like my sister, my goddess Linda got an uncle. He been trying to get rich scheme, trying to make his millions since he was a damn boy, and this motherfucker 80, and he's still trying to have these get rich schemes. You see what I'm saying? So on one particular aspect, one of the ways is that you've already done it in the process of you had to budget yourself, maybe based on other family members, based on children, but you've gotten in this habit of detaching. You understand? Of detaching. So this is a way the soul is automatically, ultimately, at a long period of time, is going to detach from something. Give an example. We notice that now around the country that the black people that was on crack, the ones that didn't die or get locked up or whatever. After a series of about a couple of years, something happens and there's a metamorphosis occurs and they're able to stop doing crack. Just for the simple fact that the ones that didn't die or the ones that didn't fall into some type of other trap or something based on crack, the spirits were strong enough to a point where the addiction, you see what I'm saying, was left behind on another plateau. So in so many words, it might have taken a slow process of the addiction, but they're noticing now after 10, 15 years of the crack thing that they got people that's been addicts for years can all of a sudden just lick it, and they don't know what it is. Some of them was able to do it on a faster level, and because they don't understand the process of the spirit world, they think it's Jesus. They are only going towards the only thing spiritual that they were taught. In this particular case, because they weren't privy to other information, they automatically attributed to Jesus. They know it's spiritual, but because they don't have any other concept of spirit except of what they was taught, Jesus, they attribute it to Jesus. But it's actually the soul that does that. So some people were strong enough to lick it at a short period of time, but even at a long period of time, the soul itself, if it stays around long enough, it starts to detach. When you have people that was on dope for years, all of a sudden they just lose the desire for it. And they say, well, I just got tired of it. No, if the addiction was still strong, you would still be locked in. It's just that the soul, at a certain period of time, it might have been a slow process, but ultimately it's going to transmutate that level. So in all of our particular thing, there's a process of letting go that happens at just a slower pace. You can speed that pace up by basically not getting trapped into the particular aspects on what clings to it, and you can deal with that from the emotional level, or simply just understanding that this shit ain't real. You see what I'm saying? So we'll go back into that in a minute as the spirit comes and answers this shit. But that's the first level of it. You know what I'm saying? Give me some questions.
These niggas is really trying to be mainstream something such and such is. It's sad. So the only thing I could do is stick to the integrity of consciousness. The integrity of consciousness is talking to those. I'm not talking to everybody. I don't give a fuck if you're not into what I'm saying. Go the fuck away then, because I'm not trying to address you, convince you, or argue, debate with you that what I'm saying is real. You either know or you don't know. You either know or you don't know. And if you don't know what I'm saying, it represents how you feel. I suck. I eat on camera. Baphomet ain't this, which I don't even know why you think I would need to defend a symbol. But just the fact that you think that, this is not for you. So I'm telling you, I have no comments on my things. I don't give a fuck what you say, good or bad, because it's irrelevant to the true work of occult. The true work of occult takes information, processes it, and makes it manifest into whatever reality that person chooses. Therefore, at a certain point, I become irrelevant within the scheme of this work ultimately. So which means I'm nothing but a bringer of information. I'm a channeler of information. The day you start trying to put me as somebody you need to debate a philosophy, your stupidity reigns supreme in that situation, and you need to pack your stupidity lunch and go eat it on a picnic bench somewhere the fuck else. We got shit to do. those who are really on the frequency. And let's start doing it now. You understand? Let's get back to business. All the fucking monkeys are now eating their bananas someplace else. So let the monkeys be monkeys and let the occultists do what we do. All right. So the first thing I want to get into just a little bit of, and I want to make sure I'm saying it right. The word is called misanthrope. And a misanthrope, and I'm going to get it right if I have it wrong, is an individual who hates humanity. This caught my attention because out of the many years that I've interfaced with conscious people, raised the dead, seen people of all ages come into light over time based upon more and more information just being spewed and their access to information books and, quite frankly, YouTube videos. When they become conscious, they are absolutely, positively becoming a misanthrope. The problem is with the definition and what people are falling into in this misanthropy is the grumpy and the hatred for humanity. What is healthy in consciousness is for you to understand the natural flaw of humanity and what humanity represents is where and you don't have to be emotional about it, but what humanity represents is what you're against in your occultism. There's something inside of humanity that you are trying to connect the love to. Our soul is what is magical forever and connected to that bounty of everlasting life and the mechanism that allows you to make a quantum leap in death. Your humanity is the shell that you should come to understand, or the soup that you should come to understand is flawed by nature. Oh, well, if you eat all your fucking sea moss and your spirulina and all of that shit, you can work with the body to do, fuck all of that, nigga. That's to maintain a pain-free suit while you're supposed to be doing your work. But the problem is you think your work is a earthly work. You think your work is an economy. You think your work is some fucking harmony that you're trying to live in, when the nature of humanity dictates it will never happen. There's winners and losers, and it revolves and evolves constantly because you are in a circle here that will never end. The Christ understanding, which every man is supposed to evolve into, which equates to true consciousness, is the middle point in the sun that you are supposed to become, i.e. why the Christ is the sun, because that middle point is the gateway out of the circle that you're on. You're good. You're doing great. Niggas are doing great. The economy. And then all of a sudden, niggas is back in church. Help me, somebody. Doing all of this bullshit because it's a never-ending cycle of nothingness. You are a food source. But if you choose not to be, this is what consciousness is. You making the effort to say, I am no longer a food source, but you don't want to fall into misanthropy because you now become just bitter with no forward moving agenda, idea, or goals. Without the goals and understanding what you truly are, you fall deep into being a misanthrope, which is the emotional hatred for your humanity. You're not trying to develop in consciousness an emotional reaction. You're trying to come up with a true understanding of what humanity is. You don't have it if you are still celebrating it. That means, to me, you're on a level where you're not ready for this information. And that's fine. I judge you not. I care less to even say more about my true feelings. I don't give a fuck. Do what you have to do. I'm talking to specific niggers. So the misanthrope is the person who becomes conscious or gets exposed to conscious information and becomes aware. And then the first thing that they start to understand is they're better than what sits in the mirror looking at them. And that's what needs to be developed. But as that beginning process happens, and it usually starts with that you're disappointed in human behavior, disappointed in people you call friends, and this big mind control about the people you call family and family first, and blood is thicker than water, and all the rest of that crap that you are mind controlled into believing your family ain't shit. Then you meet people who you are in such a synchronicity with, such a connection with. So for a guy like I am, if it's another guy, that's called a kindred spirit. The spirit that's kin. But your kindred spirits are truly from the same stuff that you come from. And those are your family members. But you will still find, as you interact with those kindred spirits, those brothers from another mother, we also call them that, as you interact with them, you still have problems because humanity gets in the way. The ego is never ending, never stopping, and unforgiving in its foolishness, in its human, what's a good word? In every human endeavor, your ego is involved, including your spirituality and your rise in your spirituality. That's why it is pertinent for you to study the ego. You must, I think I said that right, pertinent for you to study the ego. I have to call Brother Phil to make sure I said that word right. He'll straighten it up. So misanthrope is what you don't want to fall into. And why I'm mentioning it, like I said, is because I see this is a standard. And it's hard for me to really address it to the individual because there a lot of these people that now deal with me are babies. So you're not trying to stomp on ideas that are starting to warm up in them. You understand? So I have to address it like I'm addressing it now. You don't want to go study the word, study the idea of it for yourself, and you'll see it'll tell you that it will describe you as a conscious person. You're done with humanity. You're done with it. You understand? And that's fine. That's okay. But you don't want to fall into the emotional aspect of this word, because the emotional aspect is also how the ego locks you down. The ego is going to primarily use intellect to manipulate your feelings. Your intellect, your thinking mechanism is masculine. That's why the intellect in a patriarchal society as we're in a patriarchal world as we're in, rules. But the feminine is your feelings, your chakra system, which men are trained to deny. I ain't gonna cry, nigga. You cry, you a pussy, boy. Wipe your fucking face and man up. You already know that story. Oh, you're too emotional. Are you on your period? You already know the story. If you can balance your emotions through your chakra work, control them, they become a ladder to deal with the ego and the intellect, and your feelings now guide you. Spiritual, because the spiritual is very closer to the feminine, if not just a feminine thing. I mean, you could define the word spirit means wind, and wind is man because wind is thought, and wind is into. Shut the fuck up. No one says there's a spirit in the house. Oh, there's breath in the house. There's air in the house. I'm talking to air. It's many layered definitions, not one, but it's an absolute feminine aspect. You have to feel the spirit. You can intellectualize, read about it, do your rituals. Your rituals, candle lighting, cigars, offerings, setups, altars, are intellectual ways to tap into the feeling of it. So the feelings, your chakras have been attacked, clowned, and degraded into something you're trained to ignore, not trained to dig into, especially painful feelings. You're not trained to deal with them and say, that shit hurt, fucked me up, and I want to weep into my fucking pillow. You're trained to get away from that. What you need to do is start controlling and dealing with that, because that is going to, by controlling and dealing with it, that's going to give you your true understanding of spirit.